Ah, where's my cheesecake, man? I swear I have it there somewhere. Oh, well, I know I'm never gonna stick to a single level. Oh my god, where's my legs? When I wanted to make this channel, the main thing that I wanted to do was to make content that I wanted to see, but doesn't get made. To be the one to make those videos myself. Well, not good. Have you seen the first two videos? No, you haven't. I've seen those views. None of you have watched that. This video is the perfect example of why I create this channel. I love the Bendy books, but I barely hear anyone talk about them. I think the first one got a little bit of traction, but then the rest of them went to die in poorly edited shorts. Although, I don't think I can act like I'm better than them. But anyway, that's why I'm here, to try and share my favorite franchises tie-ins to the 4 people who bother to stay after the intro, and rant a bit about the decanonization of them, but we'll get back to that, don't you worry. But, for now, let's look at the books themselves. I'm gonna try go through these in a weird way, not by timeline order or release order, but by how I read them. Why? Because I can do it. Don't worry, you'll still be able to understand, because some of them aren't really connected. Here's a graph to make sure you understand. I made it in like 10 minutes. Give it a minute. Have you read it? Good. Now, let's begin with the only one anyone remembers. In this book, we follow Daniel Buddy Lewick, the only character from the books that anyone who isn't as hyperfixated as I am will ever remember. He's a 17-year-old with a passion for drawing, down on his luck, living with his widow mother and grandpa, struggling to make ends meet in his job as a delivery boy. That is, until he delivers a suit to Joey Drew himself, and after a very weird job interview. Alright, buddy, what do you see here? I don't know, a demon? Great job, buddy, you got the job. Uh, this was a job interview? Buddy is somehow able to get a job as a delivery boy in the art department within Joey Drew Studios, where he meets many people like Sammy, Jacob, and of course, Dorothy, aka Dot, a 21-year-old woman working in the writing department who recently lost her husband. She's also trying to get an episode idea about Cowboy Bendy to be pitched. At the end of Buddy's first day, Dot shows Buddy something that she found by stealing Wally Frank's keys, a top-secret concept map for Bendyland, and by the end of the day they become good friends. Something that I really like about Agent Cress's books is how she writes dialogue. People are awkward and say the wrong thing sometimes. It really helps humanizes the characters and care for them more. This book also gives us a good idea of what the work environment was like at Joey Drew Studios, with every piece of paper important and if gone unchecked, will go out of the budget, showing how much the studio was on the cusp of falling apart. But it also shows us how much of an asshole Joey was, which was told to us in the games, but in the books, it's amazingly shown, which is greatly shown when he gives Buddy his first paycheck and brings him to a restaurant, but at the end of the dinner, he pressures Buddy to pay for it and pretends it's a lesson about spending your money wisely, when Buddy didn't even get anything other than a can of Coke. He is an absolute dick, and I love it. Eventually, Buddy is kinda sick of just being a delivery boy for the studio and wants to draw for the art department, but without his own pen and paper he can't prove himself because he's a broke bitch. So to help him out, Doc gives him her keys so he can borrow some paper from the studio to prove himself. But when he goes to get paper, he overhears Sammy Lawrence and Thomas Connor talking about some kind of machine and something about ink. When he gets home, he tries to draw Cowboy Bendy on the paper, but fucking sucks. Relatable. Until his grandpa grabs his paper and draws an infinitely better drawing, tells him I teach, and then walks the fuck away. What a goat. Buddy heads back to work the next day with the drawing, and when some people start noticing the drawing, the head of the art department immediately figures out he stole it because she can just smell the fear on him, I guess. He's sent to Joey Drew's office thinking he's gonna get fired, but he just, okay, so I should fire you, but instead I'm not, and I'm just gonna tell you to make more of these and show this theater that I bought. Okay, bye. I don't understand this man. So yeah, for the next few days, Buddy draws more drawings and gets help to improve by his grandpa. Until one night, where he stays at the studio past his shift. He hears lots of banging coming from a locked door, and he does what any of us would do in that situation. He opens the door and, oh no, who could have known? There was a monster in there? Tells Dot about it, which leads to them investigating more about the ink and the machine. They should make a game about those. Eventually, this all leads up to one fateful night where Buddy is invited by Joey to a party where he meets Thomas Connor and asks him about the machine, where he says it's supposed to create characters, but instead creates monsters, and then he just leaves without elaborating. What a goat. He then goes to the studio to meet up with Dot, but then gets kidnapped by Sammy. Sammy, what happened to you? I drank the ink. What? I drank the ink, Buddy, and now the voices are getting louder. What the fuck? Ah! Oh, hey Dot. They head to look for the machine. They're able to find it, but unfortunately, Bendy found them. Oh god, what do we do? What do we do? Oh. Huh. Ah! Then he dies. Okay, I'm kidding. Instead, Joey puts his soul into another body, but not just any body, the body of Boris the Wolf. And yes, this is the same Boris we meet in the game. He then runs off and hides in the wall, seeing all the atrocities that Joey will do over the years, and more people to make his cartoons real. So, yeah, that was Dreams Come to Life. As for my thoughts, I think it's a really great book that holds up really well, with great characters and great additions to the lore. But with all that said, it's time to head into the next book. We're now entering new territory, where only the most deprived and crazy Bendy fans go. Okay, we don't have to make the joke too obvious. Now for a very unique book in this video called... This book acts as an in-universe archive of some of the best comics from Joey Drew Studios. The book is divided into 3 sections to give us a good timeline of events. In 1931, Joey Drew expanded Bendy to be the short little comic strips on newspapers, which lasted around 1935. Then in 1963, they gave Bendy full comics where he had fully original new stories. But in 1941, they had to shorten the comics and reuse the cartoon stories in order to save paper because of a war, and ending it in 1946. As a massive fan of the franchise, it's really fun to get these little tidbits of lore about the studio, even if it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the story. I think these comics give us a really good idea of what the Bendy cartoons were actually like, and the character dynamics. As for the comics themselves, they're alright. Not bad, but no cinematic masterpieces. I think I should mention, remember how I said that this is an in-universe archive? Well, we know who's archiving these. Nathan Arch, a man who, according to this book, is a good friend of Joey Drew. Huh, wonder if he'll become important. Yup! Yeah, so I actually read this book before playing Dark Revival, and it made playing it so much more fun. But other than that, there's not much left to talk about. At the end of the day, it's a harmless comic collection with some fun segments and some small setup for Dark Revival. I think the weirdest part though is Bendy can talk in these comics, which I always found weird since Bendy has always been depicted as a silent character. I guess it shouldn't question the fiction of a black and white cartoon. Those things have no sense of continuity. 1 minute Bendy's a treasure hunter and then the next he's a cowboy. Wait, cowboy? Why does that sound so familiar? No, can't think of it. Oh well. Off to... From what I can tell, the Bendy fandom sees this as the worst book in Adrian Cress's trilogy and kind of bad. And, well, yeah, it's definitely the worst of the three, but I don't think it's bad. I think the other ones just focus a lot more about Joey Drew Studios. This one just kinda does its own thing for the first half of the book, though I do think it has some unique elements that make it stand out. We follow 3 new protagonists in Atlantic City: Constance, Bill, and Brant, whose lives are intertwined after one fateful night. Constance gets into a relationship with a man named Andrew, but over time she starts regretting it as it forces her to stop pursuing her ambitions in chemistry, but she doesn't have the heart to break up with him. Bill, who is trying to prove himself as something, gets a job at Gent, and finally Brant, who has befriended Bill, but only to get a scoop on his father, who is a well-known corrupt businessman. I love how we're constantly changing perspectives between each of the main characters. Not many stories have this gimmick, especially books. One day on work, Bill is shown a top-secret project, the Ink Machine. Apparently it's been moved to Atlantic City for repairs. So Bill, after learning about this top-secret information, does what any of us would do in this circumstance. He tells his friends. Relatable. What? What? You don't know me. Shut up. I sure hope nothing bad happens. Oh no, something bad happened. So yeah, Brant fucking died. Kind of. But for now, Bill and Constance thinks he's dead. However, they slowly realize after that day that they've started acting strange. Constance has been acting a lot angrier than before, and Bill has become more afraid of everything. They soon realize that this is happening because they got into contact with the ink, and it's bringing out some of their most repressed emotions. Also, this guy is here. Ah! Oh, hey Brant. So yeah, Brant's alive now. Kind of. They all decide that they have to destroy the ink machine, so they head back to the belly of the beast, and they're able to destroy the machine and put a stop to Joey Drew and Gent Corporation from their... No, of course they did. They fucking died and turned into lost ones. The end. And that was Bendy, The Lost Ones. Overall, it's fine. It's nothing special compared to the rest of them, and that's probably because it doesn't really have anything to do with Bendy in the first half, except for Bill working for Gent. I do really like the concept of the ink manipulating emotions. I think it has a lot of implication for other characters in canon. But yeah, if you'd like some more Bendy content, I don't think there's anything stopping you from getting this. It's just that the other ones are much better, but I think it's time we head to... If I could describe my feelings about this book as short as possible, it'd probably be I don't think there's anything wrong with this book, but I think the reason why I feel so mixed about it is the fact that I expected more from this. Like, the idea of an employee handbook was intriguing to me. Were we going to read the writing of an employee of Joey Drew Studios as he writes his thoughts down as he's working there? Maybe the whole thing was just a lot of tidbits of ideas of what it was like to work at Joey Drew Studios. Honestly, I don't really know what I was expecting coming from this book, but I didn't think it was going to be a guide to Bendy and the Ink Machine. Yes, this is one of those guides to insert video game here, but to be fair, there are some pieces of lore sprinkled about, which is cool, but I don't know, I just can't help but feel a little disappointed. But it's not like there's nothing to gain from this book. But there's something that I really don't like about this. You see, I don't have the employee handbook. I have the update edition that was released after Dark Revival. But this update version takes out many pages from the original book, which sucks because this new version has no additional lore. It's all just guides to Dark Revival, which is such actual bullshit. You can't call it an updated edition if you're going to take some parts out. Ugh, I'm getting tired of talking about this book. Let's move on. What's next? Let's fucking go! I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I fucking love this book. This book is an in-universe memoir from Joey Drew, and it's awesome. It gives us such a good insight into what kind of person Joey, and surprise, surprise, he sucks. But they convey it so well in a way that if you didn't know he sucked, you wouldn't be able to catch on. There's a story at the beginning, but by the end of it, it's heavily implied that the story was completely made up, or at least a large amount of it, which puts into question every single other story in this book, which is exactly what I wanted out of this. A book from the perspective of Joey Drew, but as an unreliable narrator. But by far, the best part about this book is that it was able to fix one of my biggest problems with this franchise. I never really liked the explanation for why Joey was experimenting on his employees, just like the idea that he wanted the best mascots for his amusement park. It just felt kind of lame and forced, but this book was able to fix it. This book has been able to build up the concept of the illusion of living, Joey's philosophy that he lives by. This idea that fantasy can be just as or even more real than reality itself. For one example that was given was when Joey was a child and went to Coney Island and found it breathtaking, and he felt more alive than he did at home, and that was shown to him on the ride home. But the train home was real and the amusement park was a fantasy world. Joey, when creating Bendy Land, was obsessed with making it some grand illusion, the greatest illusion in the world. I fully believe that a man this obsessed would go to experimenting on employees. I mean, have you seen their alternatives? They're fucking dog shit. No one's going to believe that they're in a magical world where they'll forget about their problems. This is exactly what a timed book should be, an extra piece of story that isn't entirely necessary to understand the main story, but not only can enhance the narrative, but adds more depth than before. Along with building Joey's character, it's also able to build Nathan Archer's character. Like the comic collection, this book is an archived copy of Joey's original memoir, and while reading it, Nathan will put in editor's notes, and when reading them, you can see him noticing Joey slightly changing stories with him in it, or flat out just making some up. But even so, he tries to excuse them by making up reasons or excuses for why he changes the story. Joey is Nathan's closest and oldest friend, and Nathan doesn't want to believe that his friend is a liar and a deceiver. I really hope they explore more about this character in future games. There's also some small tidbits of lore, like the supposed story of how Bendy was created, and the way Joey hired Sammy Lawrence and Jack, who were a duet before working for Joey apparently. If you're a Bendy fan, I highly recommend you read this book. This is just everything I would want from a book like this. Also, did anybody else who read this felt like Sammy and Jack gave off Grouchy Loner and his hyperactive extroverted boyfriend? That's my headcanon and can't take away from me, you hear? So, I have a weird relationship with this book because it is genuinely the best book in the entire trilogy. Until the ending. But for now, we'll talk about the good parts, which is everything else. We follow a girl named Rose, a 17-year-old, as she gets a job at a TV company in 1953, which eventually gets an assisting job at the Joey Drew Show, a show where Joey is just milking the Bendy cartoons to help him get back on his feet after the studio shut down. He offers to Rose that she and her family could be testers for his new silly vision technology, with these glasses that when put on when the Joey Drew Show comes on, it looks like it's actually in front of you, almost like VR. But over time after wearing them, she starts to hallucinate Bendy around her, and her little brother Ollie has got it much worse as he wore it more than her. She slowly tries to understand why this is happening, and in her desperation she tries to find Joey Drew's memoir to understand more about him and Gen Corporation.
But the book was discontinued, so she has to find it in a library, but nobody has it, except for one library that has a librarian who actually used to work for Joey Ju Studios and is able to help Rose find out a lot about Joey Ju, and that worker is Dorothy, aka Dot. So the second half of this book is just a lot of fan service, like Dot showed up and Archie Carter, Wilson shows up at some point, the projectionist, and the ghost train. You know, the ghost train. That was my favorite character. Anyway, Rose also meets Archie Carter, who was experimented on by Gent Corporation when he was at his lowest. It really helps us understand just how horrible of a corporation they were that the games haven't yet shown us. But you know, they will eventually. So Rose, Dot, and Archie decide to team up to destroy the ink machine, because the last time 3 people went down to destroy the ink machine, with one of them having some connection to the Gent Corporation, it went so well. In all seriousness, with the parallels to the Lost One, and the featuring of Dot from Dreams Come to Life, it makes this book not only work as its own thing, it also works as a finale to the trilogy. So they are able to destroy the machine and put a stop to Joey Ju and Gent Corporation from there. No, of course they didn't. They fucking died. Well, only Archie. Afterwards, Rose goes home to see her brother wearing the glasses and emotionlessly looking at TV static. So she puts on the glasses to find out. It turns out that when they wore the glasses, they were actually being transported to the cycle, which Joey was using them to see if the cycle was safe. So, after a few encounters with the Ink Demon and the Projectionist and meeting up with the other people that Joey used to test out the glasses, they were able to make it home, and after all the chaos is over, she closes her eyes and opens them to see Bendy. The end. Okay, I really don't like this ending. It's literally the final line of the book after making you think it's going to be a happy ending. I think it's supposed to imply that she's still hallucinating Bendy, but this is the last novel that we know of so far, so this plot point isn't really going to get resolved. Everything else about this book I love, but until I see this plot thread being resolved, this ending is going to remain disappointing. We're nearly at the finish line now, off to...
If I could describe my feelings about this book as short as possible, it'd probably be Oh, deja vu. As you could probably tell, this is a graphic novel adaptation of the first book, Dreams Come to Life. And while I don't think it's bad, if I had to pick, I'd probably just read the original, because it's just so much better. Because they can't just show us Buddy's thoughts every sentence, it takes away a very keen piece of the original book. While I guess that makes sense, if they tried to recreate every scene word for word, beat for beat, it would probably take forever to even finish it. But I think what's really upsetting is just these small things that really just could have been prevented. Like how they spoiled that Buddy was Boris when it was clearly a twist in the original book. And also when Buddy actually bought food at the restaurant instead of just buying a Coke and still being forced to pay. I know it's not that big of a deal, but this kind of stuff happens a lot in the book, and it just makes this such a worse experience. Although, I don't regret buying this book though. I don't know, I think it's just really cool, the fact that we have a graphic novel version, so I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of making more of these. Just maybe stay closer to the original story. Ooh, maybe it'd be cool if the Bendy that Rose hallucinated is designed like Cinny. Take notes, Christopher Hasling. Alright, let's do a little ranking of them. For 8th, we got Employee Handbook Update Edition. For 7th, Employee Handbook, the original. 6th, Dreams Come to Life graphic novel. 5th, Crack Up Comics Collection. 4th, The Lost Ones. Third, dreams come to life. Second, fade to black. And finally, the illusion of living as number 1. So yeah, those were the books. Pretty good, right? There's some fun little stories and some implications about the larger universe. Just kidding, they're not canon. Fuck you for caring. I hate this so much. You have no idea how much I hate this. And it's not just me. Everywhere I see people talking about the books being decanonized, nobody likes this decision. I think what makes this worse is that we didn't always know about this, at least not very well known. I can't pinpoint exactly when they said that they weren't canon because they deleted their entire fucking Twitter account, but given some context clues, I have reduced it was like around 10 months, which means that they said that they weren't canon in 2024? Fade to Black came out in October of 2023. You waited until the entire novel trilogy and The Illusion of Living to be released to only tell us that they're not canon then? Oh, no, but it was so important to tell us that the graphic novel wasn't canon, even though that's kind of a given. Thank God. That could have been a disaster. There are a plethora of possible reasons for why they decanonized the books, but I think a really likely one is that they didn't want to become FNAF, where you need to read all the books, play all the games, and decipher Scott Cawthon's Riddles 3 to discover that yes, Springtrap and Burntrap are the same person. Or are they? They don't want to confuse the fans and make sure that all info they need is in the game. But most of the information they needed was in the game. The books did expand on some stuff, but they never added anything that you needed to know for the wider story. And announcing the books are non-canon after releasing all of them will confuse people. Wait, what's this? I straight up say it's not canon. Will they be in the future? Never say never, but for now, not canon.
Don't.
Don't what?
Don't give me hope.
I think we'll probably get a proper answer for this in Lone Wolf, with that game probably going into more depth about Boris's origin, which will either be the best or the worst day I'll have in a while. In conclusion, I really like these books. I think they are a great addition to the franchise and are just great books by themselves. If anyone on the Bendy team is watching this, please, please, please make them canon. I don't care what you have to do. But I repeat myself, I really liked making this video. Fuck it. The next video is a Bendy video. I got a few fan theories I'd like to share, and I've watched enough film theory videos to know that not all theories are made equally. Anyway, I've been your host, this has been a thing, and I hope you watched it. I couldn't think of an end credits gag. Can someone tell me what Sent from Above is? I keep getting so many different explanations for what it is. Some people are saying it's a real book. Some people are saying that it isn't. Some people are saying it was a stand-in or that it's just been delayed. I don't know. Somebody please tell me.